This episode is dedicated to the memory of Paul Herbst, a distinguished search and rescue officer who passed away in 2023. Paul took on missions with great dedication, responding to emergencies and disasters not just at home, but on the African continent and parts of the world.
At the time, I remember thinking the whole story seemed so bizarre. And I don't think I was the only one asking the questions, why and how did he get up there? And more importantly, what state was he in?
Yay! Yay! Yay!
It's a long distance up. I can't even answer that. My only thought is that he went from the bottom up.
He somehow managed to get himself just on the underside of the bridge. He'd been stuck there for quite some time, quite dehydrated. He was refusing to be brought down.
Every day across South Africa, brave men and women risk everything when disaster strikes.
From floods to fires, mountains to highways, these are the real stories of survival and courage. I'm Dineo Mphahlele.
And I'm Natar Nadesan.
This is SA Rescue Out Alive, an East Coast radio podcast.
Durban, May 2017. A man is spotted high above the Umgeni River, balanced on the steel girders of the iconic Connaught Bridge. Two rescue teams race to the scene, their mission to bring him down alive. What should have been a textbook rescue turned into something far more unpredictable. When they reached the man, he wasn't prepared to move. On a fine afternoon on the 8th of May 2017, in the city of Durban, a fisherman was in a small boat in the Umgeni River. One of the bridges that stand over it is Connaught Bridge, a structure that is more than a century old and one of the 4 bridges over the river in the city. As the fisherman approached Connaught, he approached a man up in the girders of the bridge.
Hey! Natali! Hey! Natali!
East Coast Radio Newswatch reporter Nishira Sudhyal had been covering a community protest on Palmet Drive in the west of the city when she had to jump on another story that was unfolding.
I had covered the protest action for most of the morning. After my final report, I began making my way back to the East Coast Radio House in Umhlanga, and at some point I received an alert from the emergency services media groups. A man who was believed to be in some sort of distress was, in their own words, stuck either inside or under Connaught Bridge.
Nishira had spent the morning covering a volatile community protest in the north of Durban. Tensions had simmered down when she got the alert of another developing story just 10 minutes away. She reroutes and heads east to the suburb of Stamford Hill in Durban North.
I can see traffic building up. I decided to pull the car over, and I decided what I'm going to do is just run up the bridge. And all I remember seeing on that day was like the flashing lights at the top, and the bridge is sort of curved. So I just ran, and then as I approached the very top of the bridge, I could already see what the rescue personnel were planning on doing. And it was honestly daring. They had set up a rope and pulley system. It looked like they were planning to abseil off the top of the bridge to get to the man.
We were just in the area and we heard about the rescue and that some of our guys from our department were going, and because we were in the area, we went to go assist. A gentleman, homeless gentleman, he somehow managed to get himself just on the underside of the bridge. He'd been stuck there for quite some time, quite dehydrated, obviously very hungry. I do remember one of our rescuers made first contact with him. He was refusing to be brought down until someone brought him something to eat and something to drink.
Kelsey J. Mayerick has been in the medical rescue space for over a decade after completing her bachelor's and honor's degree in emergency medical care and rescue. She now works for IPSS Medical Rescue, an emergency services company that is based on the KZN North Coast but operates in various parts of the province. On that afternoon in May 2017, she and a fellow rescuer were off duty when the news of a man stuck under a bridge started spreading on the comms channels. They arrived at the scene above the Umgeni River and joined other emergency services personnel that were there. It was a bit of a tricky and unusual situation given where the man was positioned, underneath the bridge. The team had to figure out how they were going to go about this daring rescue.
For the patient, it wasn't very safe. He could have fallen into the water at any point. We don't know if he can swim or not. It was a river. It wasn't flowing really fast, but still it's a body of water. It becomes a hazard in the whole rescue situation.
The rescue team decided on a strategy and set up a rope system. Two rescuers, Warrant Officer Clinton O'Dyer and rescue official Paul Herbst, who would be tasked with getting the man out of the girders and off the bridge. Officer O'Dyer is a seasoned police search and rescue member attached to the Umhlali Canine Unit. Paul Herbst was also a highly skilled first responder with a long list of missions. One of the two rescuers needed to first make contact with the gentleman in distress. Paul was the one sent on the recce and was lowered down to a point mid-air where he could see the individual.
We first need to then get someone to make contact with the patient. We decided to set up a rope system on top of the bridge. It's easier to lower someone down than to try to get them to climb up a bridge on the side. Sent a rescuer over to make first contact. So basically it's to establish the level of consciousness of the patient, chat to the patient if they can, if they're conscious. In this case, the patient was conscious.
While Paul was trying to establish trust and reassure the stranded man, the team above was finalizing the setup of the rope system. Anchored with a fire truck that was on scene, they also deployed a backup plan. Here's Kelsey J.
So our rescuer on the rope stayed with him. We used, I think, a fire truck for anchoring and also the bridge itself at the top. We also, at the same time as we were setting up the rope system, put people down in the water with flotation devices, and just should something happen, should he decide he wants to jump into the water, or you always need to take into account that rescues don't always go according to plan. So in case something happened during the rescue, he ends up in the water. We have like little harnesses. They're not official harnesses, but it's like a triangular harness for the patient where it's easy to put it around, attach it all together, almost like a nappy kind of thing. And then it can be attached directly to the rescuer. So then the patient and the rescuer are very close. It's easier to control them if they're closer and control yourself as one unit versus somebody hanging too low. It also helps the patient feel a bit more secure so they're not flailing, because the minute somebody starts flailing, ropes start spinning.
She says in a rescue operation, every move has to be precise. Before going over the edge, they needed a solid recovery plan.
As long as you're proficient and have constant training and are using it a lot, it's actually, I wouldn't say it's simple, but it can be done quite quickly. That's the whole point of it, to be proficient in it. So the specialized knots, we need to look at anchoring points, safe anchoring points for the ropes. Luckily, there was a fire truck on scene. We could use that as an anchoring point, as well as the bridge was a proper concrete, had concrete railings, which could also be used. We like to always have 2 points of attachment, so 2 different ropes. One is the main rope where the load is bearing the load. The other is almost like a redundancy where there's a little bit more slack, so should the main rope break, you've got that to catch the rescuer and the patient. And there's a lot of hardware that goes into it, a lot of pulleys, redirectional pulleys, so you can anchor it, redirect it if you need to, and then put it down. You need to keep the rope safe from hard surfaces, so we have padding that goes over where the rope would touch going over the bridge. Obviously, an important thing is that rope is rated for quite heavy weight, so is all the equipment, but it needs to be looked after. So after every rescue, rope gets inspected, equipment gets inspected to make sure it's ready for the next one. If there's any damage to any rope, it needs to be retired. So to be very big on keep everything, all the equipment in good working order. The hardware that's attached to the rescuer, he'll have belay systems that he can manually belay himself down, so he's not completely reliant on us.
Kelsey J recalls that after the first rescuer, Paul, was lowered to speak to the man, the mood began to shift.
So there was a bit of a language barrier. He was refusing to be brought down until someone brought him something to eat and something to drink, which was quite sad. The rescuer was telling him, no, we're going to get him down and get him something because it's not safe up there, where he took it as just a no, so then he didn't want to come down. So there was a bit of a delay there.
Kelsey J says it was clear they needed a gesture of trust.
Once the rescuer managed to kind of convey what we were doing, somebody went and got something to show him we had it at the bottom for him.
With the promise of food waiting below, the man moved cautiously but willingly towards Paul. As the rescue operation gets underway, reporter Nashira Suthial remains at the top of the bridge, while a small crowd of spectating passers-by gather below to watch from the sidelines of the riverbank.
Clinton was standing on the ledge of the bridge, balancing himself and tugging on the rope to make sure it was secure so he could begin making his way down. Paul managed to get a harness on him while Clinton sort of hung in the air on the side of the bridge.
With the man safely secured to Paul, the trio began their slow descent towards the waters of the Umgeni. But things start to spiral.
I remember Paul and Clinton first attempting to get the man off the girder, but he seemed to be in a panic and he was screaming. We all heard it from the top. His legs were flailing around in the air. I remember them trying to calm the man down, even grabbing his arms that were moving wildly in the air and screaming. And then at that point, I remember Clinton looking up at officials, those who were handling the rope and pulley system at the top of the bridge, and he's telling them, lower us faster. They began to lower the three of them, but at the same time, Clinton and Paul are still trying to calm him down because he's not calm while he's in the air. As they reach the water, he starts screaming even louder to the point that we're all looking down now and watching what's going on. The two of them are trying to hold him. He's screaming because he doesn't want to go into the water. He starts grabbing the rope and attempting to climb back up.
Kelsey J explains that it's not unusual for these types of daring rescues to trigger sudden panic for the person being secured to a harness and rope system. She says that's exactly what happened in this case.
It's scary telling someone to get off a ledge when they just hooked on with equipment they're not familiar with. That's also very go-slowing. So you get there and then you got to kind of shimmy off a little bit. He did get a few frights, but eventually he kind of relaxed. We were able to pull him down. We've had smoother rescues. We've had much more complicated rescues where the patients really are not compliant, but at the end of the day, we need to understand they're not used to that.
Once they'd calmed the man down, the two rescue officers managed to safely descend into the water with him. They then waded towards the riverbank where other rescue and medical personnel had been standing by with a stretcher.
A man has just been rescued after being trapped under the Connaught Bridge in Durban, apparently for a number of days. Various emergency services teams from around Durban worked together to bring the man up to safety. It's not yet clear how or why he got there. IPSS Medical Rescue's Paul Herbst says the man was disoriented when they found him.
IPSS Medical Rescue, together with Police Search and Rescue and Connaught Search and Rescue, called out to the bridge where we're currently at, where a man somehow got trapped underneath the bridge towards the middle of the pillar. He's been there for plus minus 2 days, suffering from hypothermia and obviously low blood sugar. It was quite a technical rescue to get him down. Fortunately, when we got to him, he was wanting to jump off the bridge before we got there, unless we gave him food. Clinton from Connaught Search and Rescue spoke to him. We managed to get him into a harness, onto a safe line, and then lower him down.
That's East Coast Radio's Newswatch. The man was carefully carried into an awaiting ambulance.
He was very, very scared, anxious, obviously, but also he wasn't sure what had happened, why he was in this position he's in. He was quite malnourished, but it could have also been from before that incident, if you know what I mean. I don't know the living conditions even before that, but, I think it had been a few days that he had been there. but obviously confusion made it difficult to understand what led him to get there firstly, and then what his state of mind was after he was found. Because also people don't just see this. I mean, you don't just have people walking underneath bridges. And if you do, nowadays everyone's on their phone, so you're not like paying attention to around you. So he could have just been what we call hypoglycemic, low blood sugar, because you haven't eaten or drunk anything. You're like sitting there for days. So he got saved by search and rescue and then obviously treated.
Gareth Jameson, an advanced life support medic with 25 years experience, was one of the attending medics.
You get 3 different levels of care: basic life support, intermediate and advanced. So basic life support, there are medics, but basic. So they can give you oxygen, they can splint your legs, they can do your blood pressure. There's certain like asthma drugs they can now give with the new protocols. Intermediate, they can put up drips, read ECG monitors, your heart monitors, and give more drugs as well. And then advanced is literally at the end before you're a doctor, so full drugs.
Gareth Jameson says when they received the man, he seemed quite disoriented.
He was mumbling. Also, there was a language barrier with me specifically, I remember. So he was communicating with the team and the rescue officers, but not very talkative. I think he was also shocked himself, like, what is going on? What are these people doing? You know, I remember even the drip was a bit of not an issue, but he didn't understand. Why does he need it? Why are we just poking him with a needle? For what reason? But the team, obviously multi-languages team, communicated in his language.
Once they jumped that hurdle, the medic team began to assess the man.
We can't do anything for a Confucius state, if I may say that. So checked vitals, put up a drip, transported him through to state facility for full medical checkup, obviously, and then if needed, referral through their channels, the state facility channels as well. But he wasn't aggressive or, fighting us once at the bottom. I also think he was just so weak. He was very weak. He was probably relieved that he got some help finally, regardless of what had occurred before.
And Gareth concurs that getting the man the food he had asked for earlier not only would have helped build him up a bit of strength for the rescue operation, but it was also vital for his cooperation.
That forms a trust between the rescuer and the patient. Even in a confusion state, there's a trust issue. Total strangers right here by you. This was about earning their trust. So he's like probably startled. Now there's all this commotion and cars and ropes and people. So they had to earn his trust.
On that sunny day in May, a lone fisherman may have taken his small boat on the Umgeni River, perhaps looking to catch a carp, but instead he caught something far more unexpected. A man who had been perilously stranded on the cold steel girders of the bridge for more than 24 hours. To this day, how he got there remains a mystery. Whatever the reason, one thing is certain. The passing angler couldn't have imagined he was destined that day to help save a soul. This podcast is dedicated to all those who put their lives at risk, who come to the rescue when every second counts. I'm Natara Nadesan.
This podcast series, produced by the East Coast Radio Newswatch team, is dedicated to the men and women who risk everything to save lives.
To hear more of their stories, subscribe to SA Rescue Out Alive at ecr.co.za under podcasts or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.